Hello, my name's Cameron Cast and I'm a mechanical engineering student on Gladstone campus, and I've been assigned to talk about analog processors. So today I'm going to talk about what are analog processors, what are they used for, and then I've listed 3 products in my own home that I use an analog processor with. Alright, to begin with, what are analog processors? Well, simply put, analog processors process analog signals. Now I had to look up what that meant, and I found out that an analog signal can be defined mathematically as a continuous equation, as in one having no end. So much like the Taylor series stuff we had to do in maths throughout last year and this year. As such, an analog processor has to process a continuous and constant stream of information, which generally in a circuit is determined through a change in voltage and current. So what are its uses? Well, they're most commonly found in high-end video and audio equipment. Why? Well, analog processors do a much better job of processing the information that is input as opposed to digital processors. This is because in the case of audio and video, you don't tend to get a uniform string that can be coded down to binary. You generally get a very complicated signal, which is often defined as an analog signal. And some examples of such gear that I use in my own home that use an analog processor. I have a Roland 30X Cube 30-watt guitar amp. That's a transistor-based amp. I have a Vox Valvetronics 30-watt guitar amp. That's a valve-based amp. And I also have a Digitech RP355 multi-effects pedal, and that's, as you can guess, a guitar effects pedal. Now let's talk about the Roland 30X Cube first. Now, why is the processor used here? Well, in this case, the input, which is the sound produced by the guitar, is a complex analog signal. Now in this case, the amp has several built-in effects options. As you can see there, you can equalize the bass, the middle, and the treble, which is low end, mid-range, and high sound. You can check on a chorus effect, a flanger, a phaser, and a tremolo, none of which sound incredibly good. It also has a delay and reverb effects, which are quite fun to play around with, and it's got, I'm not sure if you can see it there, but it's got several different amp case types, which I'm not going to go into today. Now, with this amp, it runs as I said before, as a transistor amp. So therefore, it processes, outputs the sound. It equalizes the sound using a digital processor. However, it does use an analog processor to initially input the sound. Now, the next item in my home that uses an analog processor is my Vox Valvetronic amp. Now, again, why is it used in this system? The input signal is a complex analog system. Now, why is this amp different from the other amp? Well, it uses valves, which is a very old version of a transistor. It uses to process the sound. Now, why valves? This kind of technology was superseded back in the 1950s, and it's generally very terrible for any use. For example, they used to use them in TVs, and before you could watch anything on your TV, you had to wait a couple of minutes for the valves to warm up. However, it turns out that in the case of music and guitar amps, anything that's about 30 watts or above, you do not want to use transistor-based amps for, because you get a very low quality of sound. So as it turns out, valve technology is a muso's best friend, even though it was superseded about 60 years ago. And now, finally, the Digitech RP355. Now, why do I use this? Well, I use it to bypass the processing unit in both the amps. Well, why? I get a better sound quality, and I'm able to manipulate all the sounds that I want, and I have basically an unlimited number of sounds that I can get out of a guitar that I normally wouldn't be able to get to and I definitely would not be able to get this with a digital system. So to conclude, analog processors are still in use today, which surprised me, to be honest, as superseded technology usually gets phased out. However, it has been proven that in terms of high quality video and audio processing, analog processors are yet to be matched. Thank you for listening to my presentation.